because there was a few people asking. Oh, thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Pixie. I've got my husband Pablo here with me, who is probably more of an authority on this subject than I am, as he has BPES. I do not. Our 7-year-old daughter Maia has had 2 surgeries. We're based in the UK, and we've got quite a story to tell. And really wanted to help out other people who might be in similar situations just by explaining a bit about Maya's journey so far. I'm hoping she's going to come and join us in a little while, but she's upstairs with her siblings watching a film, so I'm not sure if she's going to be able to drag herself away from 101 Dalmatians. We'll see. So I guess the first stop in our journey was when we realised that something wasn't quite right when she was first born. Her older sister does not have BPES. And at the time, we had no idea there was a name for the condition that Pablo had. Did you? You just had no idea what it was called?
No, so no family member of mine, and like none of my parents and none of my grandparents have the same condition. So we did not know the condition as BPS. So we found that out when Maya was born.
Exactly, our second daughter. And the midwife said, "Oh, just wait. She'll open her eyes a bit more." But I could tell immediately that there was something not quite right. So I did 2 exhausting full days and nights of research, and I managed to find one photograph of a little boy who had similar eyes. And so I clicked on it, and the only letters were BPES. And so I went and started my journey of discovery. We went to the GP in the UK, the doctor who had no idea what we were talking about, and so referred us to the main hospital. We had a bit of a strange experience with the first surgeon who we spoke to. Number one, she wasn't the warmest of people. I remember the first time we met her, she just came straight up to our little baby and tried to immediately put some drops in her eyes without explaining that to us and what she was doing. And then proceeded to diagnose her with BPES type 2 specifically. And I had remembered from my research that it wasn't, you weren't really able to tell whether it was type 1 or type 2. Only a geneticist can really tell you that. And even that is such a grey area that you don't really know. But she was absolutely adamant that it was type 2 BPES. And at the time, I had no idea that I was able to self-refer. So we went for quite a few months believing that she had type 2 BPES, and that our only option was to go through that hospital and have the surgery that she recommended. And she did recommend the fascia sling. So after a little while, after a few months, I was told by an optometrist that I was able to self-refer. So we ended up referring to the main specialist in the UK. And initially, I was very impressed. Actually, I need to backtrack a little bit, don't I? Because when she was 6 months old, we took her to Professor Colin privately in London, who was considered the main authority on BPES in the country at the time. He's now retired. And he told us a few things that were very interesting. I think the first thing, he took one look at her and said she needs immediate attention, whereas the NHS surgeon who we'd seen previously wasn't of that mind at all. But he was adamant that particularly in one eye, she was going to lose her sight unless she had the ptosis lifted immediately. The second thing he told us was that we would never need to have the epicanthus cut, the epicanthus inversus. He told us at the time that that was only purely aesthetic and that she could choose to do that later on in her life. So fast forward a few months, we decided to go with the NHS, and we're initially very impressed. I think the way that they treated us was to invite us for one day to see a few different consultants, specialists from different of different types, like an ophthalmologist, the optometrist we saw. I forgot the name of the other one, but yes. And then at the end of the day, we saw the surgeon, and it was decided at the end of the day, or yeah, what would happen, or a recommendation was given. Recommendation for surgery came immediately, and it wasn't until she was 11 months that we were called for her first surgery. We were informed that that would be a temporary sling with silicone. But on the day itself, we arrived at 7 o'clock in the morning, didn't we? After having no breakfast, and we're told that the surgeon wasn't available, but that their fellow would be performing the surgery. I can't say for definite whether or not we were told that a different surgery was going to be performed on the day. I was not in the frame of mind, obviously, to take in any of that kind of information. But it turned out that the fellow performed a different surgery. Rather than the temporary sling surgery with silicone, like we were expecting, she was given something called supramid sutures. So I don't know if you can see in the photo there, she's got little plasters at the top. She had triangular kind of scarring above each eye, one at the top and then two either side. And we had absolutely no idea at the time that that was supramid sutures. We thought that she'd just had a temporary sling surgery. But as I said, if that's the fellow surgeon on the day told us that that was going to happen, I don't remember. We were given 6 months to 2 years for that surgery. This photo is 1 week later. That was on her first birthday. Yeah, so we were given 6 months to 2 years on that temporary surgery. I'm not complaining because we're quite lucky. They lasted about 4 years until the left eye, which was always a little bit lower than the other, started to come down quite significantly. At the age of 4, they had already discharged us from that hospital. We were just being seen by the local optometrist, and they started to notice that there were some problems in her vision. So they gave her glasses and referred us back to the hospital, the main hospital. And from then on, what did we do? Sort of between 4 and 6, I think she just wore the glasses. Her eyesight was, she had regular eye checks, but her eyesight was clearly deteriorating on one side. Mm-hmm. The NHS weren't really I don't know, they weren't really concerned about her vision, but I could see that she was being really badly affected, and at school she was obviously really struggling to see, particularly with her left eye. Mm-hmm. So at 6 years old, we went back to the surgeon in the hospital where she'd had the previous surgery, and discovered that she hadn't in fact had the sling surgery that we thought she'd had. No apology, but it turned out that both had been written on her notes, which is interesting. And I was informed that she couldn't possibly have had the silicone sling surgery because that wasn't available to babies at the time that she had it 6 years previously, which is absolutely not true. I was also informed that the epicanthus surgery was then being performed, as it was just common practice to treat the epicanthus inversus first, and then 6 months later to have a revision and to do the ptosis lift with fascia slings. So we were given 3 options for the epicanthus surgery, which would take place first. One was just a stitch, the way that Pablo had 40 plus years ago. The other one was something called transnasal wiring, which was all the rage about 10 years ago, is no longer. And transnasal plating is what they were doing in the UK a few years ago, and was quite newly developed, I believe, in conjunction with another surgeon from another major hospital. And that was the one that was recommended to us. There were also 3 separate options for the ptosis lift. We were given the option of the fascia sling, another temporary sling, or not another one because we thought, because we didn't have that in the first place, or just another temporary suture like she'd had previously. And the recommendation was to go for the fascia sling, and that would have been 6 months later. The problem being was that her eyesight was badly deteriorating by then. And it was another year when she was 7 years old. She was just about to turn 7 when we were given a date for the first surgery. I wasn't at all impressed, if I'm honest, by the consultation we had with both of the surgeons in the UK. Our daughter was terrified. She was crying a lot. They weren't particularly warm. I don't believe their bedside manner was particularly great. And I wasn't confident that they were going to be able to honour that 6-month time frame, and the NHS being as stretched as it is sometimes. So I didn't really see another way, and at that point I was feeling quite low. And then about 2 weeks before the surgery was due to take place, a really good friend got in touch and said that he might be able to help us with some fundraising. And that was the catalyst for this quite incredible journey of meeting Dr. Medel and her having her, hopefully, second and final surgery. So within a week, we'd had a consultation with Dr. Medel. He'd had a fantastic rapport with her, just over, I think it was a Zoom call or a Teams call, something like that. She's an artist, so he was asking her all about her artwork, and asked her if she could paint his portrait, which she did, and took it all the way to Spain with her. She didn't even have a passport at that time, did she? And within a week, she had the passport, like everything was kind of ready to go. And within 2 to 3 weeks, we'd managed to raise most of the money that we needed. And through the generosity of friends and family, were completely blown away by our community. I've never felt more gratitude, if I'm honest. So we arrived in Spain on when was it? It was the last days of September. When you go, they give you a couple of possible dates. Well, there's a picture of us on the morning of the surgery. They give you a couple of dates, and they ask you to stay a few days either side of that, so they can do the blood tests initially and just make sure that the surgery is appropriate for that person. And then a few days afterwards, just in case of any complications, just in case they need to go back in and do a revision, which I believe he does for free if a revision is required. We didn't need that. We were lucky. So the day of the surgery dawned. We were lucky because we were the first ones in. So she skipped breakfast, but that was okay because it was so early. I was allowed to go in with her, which I believe is not common practice. We had to ask for it, and I think they could see how shy our daughter was, and she was attached to me. She was afraid, but she was being really brave. The anaesthetist who had met the day previously had been so sweet, so kind to her, really, really talking to her rather than just looking at us. And I have to say, I felt that with all of the staff at the hospital. I should say I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I've just been really impressed by the care that she's received from them. So yes, I was able to go in with her. It happened very, very quickly. It was quite emotional watching your child go under. And then they asked me to leave after a few minutes because she was already asleep. It was about 5 hours for us. I think just over 5 hours. A lot of pacing was done. It was a 3-in-1 surgery for Maia, which is not necessarily common with all BPES patients. Some don't require the inner and outer corners to be button stitched, I suppose. Maia's did. I think just because the ptosis, had been covering her eyelids for so long, and her vision was being so badly obstructed that she needed as much space as possible to so that her vision wasn't limited and her pupils could really learn to work together. Yeah, so the first few hours afterwards were quite difficult, weren't they? I mean, she did a lot of sleeping. I was allowed to just hop into the bed next to her. I stayed right next to her for 5 or 6 hours afterwards, while she slowly woke up. And then they brought us some food, and yes, and we were able to go home. Of course, her eyes were covered. I think that photo's already been shown of her eyes being covered on the bed, um, with some quite strong bandages, which were very uncomfortable for her. But there to, make sure that, yes, that all of Dr. Medel's good work stays, yeah, as it should. So we went home. Usually they ask you to come back the following morning, to have the bandages removed. We had to go in a little bit earlier. Maia was in quite a bit of pain and quite uncomfortable. And it had turned out that one of the stitches had come undone. It's a little bit yucky, maybe, to talk about, but they tend to stitch the eyelids closed straight after the surgery, which is quite scary. But it's to make sure that the eyes, aren't open constantly, so they're not, in pain. But one of them had come undone underneath the bandages for Maia. So we went back in at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and had the bandages taken off then and there, without Dr. Medel, but with one of his fellows. She was absolutely wonderful. She was so kind. She took everything at Maia's pace, and she gave her some really special anesthetic drops to take away any pain. We went home. Maia slept for a good few hours, and then we came back in the afternoon. Dr. Medel had a look at his work. Maia was able to give her portrait to him then, that she'd painted of him, and she was a bit quiet, I suppose, but she was already doing so well. And that's the point, I suppose, when we were given all the medications and everything was explained to us. There's quite a lot of different eye gels and creams, and obviously painkillers that she was going to need to take for a while. I was quite glad that she didn't seem to need quite as much of the painkillers as I thought she would. Because of her age, she was really able to tell us what she needed. And yeah, the painkillers really after the first day were obsolete. And it was just the quite consistent regime of creams. I had to write myself out a table and tick everything off every few hours. So the initial healing process was the sort of first 2 weeks, maybe. The first 2 weeks of her not sleeping very well, being quite uncomfortable, needing constantly to have her dark glasses on. She had sunglasses over her normal glasses. She couldn't really be out in the sunlight, which is completely normal, and she had to wear a hat quite low over her head. She was off school for 8 weeks, at home with me, after which she resumed swimming classes. She went back to school on her own. She started writing again, and I think the only thing for us was that she didn't have a proper eye test, because they recommend you don't have an eye test immediately, obviously, because of the inflammation. Was 3 months later. So we realized that her prescription had gone up slightly, so she did need new glasses, and so that's the reason that she was struggling to read and write. But otherwise, since that, things have been great, and Dr. Medel's team have kept in touch with us, mainly via WhatsApp. We actually have a 5-month post-op check tomorrow evening. Maia had very little in the way of complications. I think we've been extremely lucky. I know there are some children who get this kind of red bubbly stuff in their eye called chemosis, which is easily treatable, but can be quite difficult and unsightly. Maia's had very little of that. And to be honest, I'm just incredibly grateful for the incredible care that we've received from Dr. Medel's team. I really feel like doing the 3-in-1 surgery rather than just, rather than 3 separate surgeries 6 months apart has really benefited her. I mean, you can see from the picture the huge difference that it's made, and it looks even better now. These pictures were taken about a month ago. The inflammation has come down significantly. There's minimal scarring on her inner corners, none on the outers at all. Yeah, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Not at the moment. Maybe after question.
Okay, okay. I haven't noticed if any questions have popped up, so.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pixie. There was a couple that I've answered, but does anyone have anything that they would like to ask Pixie and Pablo about what they've just said, or you can just unmute yourself and speak if you like. Or maybe you just explained it so thoroughly, Pixie, that that there's nothing to
Good.
add.
I've got my little bullet points down here, so I didn't
Make
forget
sure
anything.
you cover everything off. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, you explained everything really, really thoroughly. I think for me, you know, the main difference.
I have a question.
Oh, good. Okay.
Because of the surgery, is she able to blink afterwards? Because that's my main concern, that my daughter won't be able to blink anymore.
She can blink. She's still learning how to blink, and it takes some sort of conscious effort for her to do that. She started off just doing it like this with her hands, didn't she?
Yeah.
And she would constantly be doing this, like when she was trying to read something or write something. And now she doesn't. Now she kind of just screws up her eyes like this, but she's fully able to blink. She still sleeps with her eyes slightly open, so we're still doing the eye gel just once before bed. But that's it, and we're 5.5 months post-op now, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's one of the
really
first things that Dr. Medel was saying, like, you know, but after the operation for her to exercise her muscles, you know, because obviously everything has been reshaped a little bit. And from day one, she's been, you know, exercising her muscles, and every once in a while, you know, I do ask her, so Maya, how's your blinking going? You know, and you can tell that the muscles are relearning, and you know, I had a very different operation, but I blink absolutely not absolutely normal now, but I still sleep with eyes open, don't I? Slightly
yeah.
open, yeah. But yeah, I think it's something that comes with time.
So Pablo was one of the lucky ones who had the fascia sling that actually has held. Because from what I've read and seen, a lot of the fascia slings tend to fail quite fairly quickly. Yeah, and your surgery was done in Germany, what, 40
yeah, but that
years
was
ago?
exactly that was something that was, and there were not so many procedures on the cards maybe 40 years ago, 37. Actually, I was born in Argentina, and nobody in Argentina knew what to do with my eyes. So my family moved from Argentina to Germany, and I got my operation in Freiburg in the end.
Yep.
Pixie, have you thought at all about, I mean, have you found out if Maya has type 1 or type 2?
We decided not to check, because we went to see the geneticist and the endocrinologist here, and they both quite frankly told me, we can tell you if there's the marker there, but even if we give you a type, that doesn't necessarily mean that she won't be able to get pregnant later. It doesn't necessarily mean that her hormones are going to definitely go into menopause early. It will just give you a kind of a ballpark at best, and that even might change with time.
We also asked Dr. Medel that question, remember?
Did we ask him that?
Yeah, we did, and he said, like, he said something like, "You'll find out." Like,
you'll find out one day.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, there's no specific science about that. I mean, there's obviously a concern, but I think there's one big report, no, about a doctor who's linking one of the types with early
onset menopause.
Yeah.
So there are studies that are happening currently, and there's no definite as to whether or not a body that's already been through hormonal menopause will be able to carry a child, but there is a possibility that they can with the appropriate IVF.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we've just decided is just to leave it, and in the future there might be new technologies available. If she really wants to be a mother naturally, then let nature take its course. But I feel like this chapter with her eyes and her eyesight hopefully has been closed.
Yeah, I think for me it's just the difference in expertise that obviously Dr. Medel has versus the people that you saw in the NHS over the previous 6 or 7 years. It breaks my heart that they that they did a different surgery to what they said they were going to do. I just can't even imagine finding out that all these years what you thought your baby had is wrong. That's just like so heartbreaking to me. But yeah, just incredible that you guys, you stopped the NHS route just in time and, switched over to obviously finding out about Dr. Medel fundraising, raised the funds in 2 or 3 weeks. It was like 21,000 euros, right? Yeah.
Yes. He was able to give us a 10% discount on each surgery because it was a 3-in-1.
Yeah. But still, I mean, a hell of a lot of money, for any regular family to get to cobble together. And
I didn't think for a moment that we were going to get anywhere near it. We were considering remortgaging the house.
Yeah, I expand on that a little bit.
Of course.
So initially, when Pixie found out about Dr. Medel's team, initially, and I said we didn't know how much it was cost. We thought like, okay, maybe it's in the £3,000, and I said like immediately, oh, it's going to be so high we can't afford it. So it felt like it felt like a real sadness to say like our only option is the NHS route. But when we went on holiday, just a couple of months before the operation was due in London, it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right at all, and things were just not following. And that's where really the penny dropped, and we said, and our friend helped us to kickstart. Said, guys, we can do this. We can kickstart the fundraiser, and we can get moving. And the minute we decided that everything just flowed, and it was just almost effortless. And within a blink, we were on a plane to Malaga, and we also said to ourselves, in a way, that we were really owing it to Maia, because in a sense for us it was so important that that it felt right to her. And Malaga is also, I know there's going to be off charts a little bit. Malaga is the hometown of Pablo Picasso. It has a very like artistic background, and I felt also like the energy from Dr. Medel was, I feel he's obviously has the training and the background, but he has the approach a little bit like the artist, and I really appreciated that. When he saw her, he kind of connected, and he almost made up his mind like the day he saw her. He said he had looked at her, had a look at her eyes, and he immediately knew what he was going to do. But depending on, so there's a little bit of that element as well in there, which I appreciated a lot, rather than just one very kind of cold approach with just like one way of doing it, so to say. Anyway, I'm going a bit off charts here, but that's how I felt.
I think that's really important, that those who maybe are thinking that's a huge amount of money, there's just no way of doing this financially. I mean, there was no way for us. It was such a pie in the sky thought. It was incomprehensible, that amount of money. But people, family and friends, really, really came together in a way that surprised us. And it happened a lot quicker than we thought it would. So I think it's really important to remember, like, if anybody's sitting there thinking there's no way that we can afford this, we were there as well, and really, really get it.
How long was it between booking the consultation and the date of the surgery?
3 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
It happened very quickly. We had said to him during the consultation, there's no way we can afford this immediately. and he said, oh, don't worry about that. And then I thought, okay, I wonder what he's going to do. Is he going to let us pay it like in a few installments? But no, the invoice arrived and it was 10% off each surgery. So in the UK, that was just over £18,500 with the discounts and things.
Hamza's got a question for you, Pixie.
Oh, sure.
Hamza, do you want to go ahead?
Well, it's not only about what your daughter was going through. I have a question. Does Dr. Nadal also treat Marcus Gunn-Jaw-Winking syndrome? Because I have it and I live in Pakistan, so like there's no treatment here.
Yes, he does. He does do that, yeah.
So like, do you have his contact information or anything I can email him on, or his mobile number even?
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a WhatsApp that he answers, so I will send you his number somehow after the meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You will be charged for the consultation, just to warn you. That's one thing that I tried to get around, and I was like, oh, maybe we can just find out, without having to pay the money, yeah, how much it would be and if he could even help us in the first place. But no, it's well worth paying for the consultation with him because he's so professional and just, as you said, such an
Can you
artist.
tell me an approximate how much it will be?
For the consultation.
I have no experience with Marcus Gunn, so maybe Vanessa, you'd have more of an answer for that.
Do you mean for the consultation or the operation?
Yes, for the consultation, yes.
Oh, the consultation for us was €200. And that would be, obviously, for you, it would be online.
Yeah, thank you.
I think it was a little bit cheaper for us, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was €100.
I think it was €120 for us online. So maybe it was more of a good choice in person.
Probably cheaper online then, because we did it in person, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So yeah, that's even better. Better online. Thanks for that, Hamza. I'll make sure that we get that number over to you, and you can just WhatsApp them. I think they're best to contact them on WhatsApp. Okay. Anybody else have a burning question for Pixie and Pablo? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Or feel free to put any questions that you think about later, maybe on the charity Facebook page.
Yeah.
That'd be okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Everyone's in contact with me anyway. Myra, yes, you go for it.
Hi, I will try to do my question. I was driving and I hear with my son, he's a little noisy, but if you have the chance to do the surgery with Dr. Medel for the first time, for the first surgery, this was a choice for you? Because I'm living in UK and they don't want to do the surgery with my son. I would come say hello for everyone. Say hi.
Oh, hey, Baba.
Oh, sweetie.
Sorry, but it's all new for us. So when we go to the doctor, they don't just say for us, no, it's not. You don't need to do a surgery. But I think he's too. I'm sorry. He's a baby, so I don't know if when he grows a little bit, his face will grow together. I don't know. If this makes sense, if you do the surgery with actually are two questions. If you was able to choose Dr. Medel to do the first surgery, and the second, if a gente vai falar, vem aqui, a gente vai falar. Vamos tomar um TT? Vamos tomar um TT? A gente vai falar. He wants to say. I forgot what I want to ask, but a gente vai. Sorry.
You're fine. So what would we say first? I mean, I'm quite grateful for the way things happened for us. I think having the supramed sutures or the temporary surgery, personally for us, it worked. And I'm quite happy that we were able to go to Dr. Medel when she was a bit older. And we could decide that together with her. I mean, I think first thing to remember is that not all people with BPES require surgery. Not all families wish that for their children. Some believe that God gave them their eyes for a reason, and as long as they can see, their vision isn't being impaired, then there's no reason to interfere. I think it really depends on your child's eyesight. I'd be interested to know where you are in the UK, and just to let you know that you are able to self-refer up to the main hospitals in London if you're not happy with the diagnosis that you've received locally. I would say if the surgeons up in London decide that your child's vision is okay for now and they don't require surgery, then I would personally let that rest and continue to see optometrists regularly, have regular eye checks, insist that my child had at least an eye check every 6 months. And if for any reason the eyesight started to deteriorate, I would immediately self-refer back up to London. Because regardless of what our experience is with the kind of mess up of the surgeries, they still did a pretty good job. She still had a fairly easy recovery from the first surgery, and she did need it. So I hope I'm making sense, but I really think it depends on your child's eyesight. If their eyesight is okay without the surgery, then yeah, for now at least, yeah, I would say there's not much need. But if you have a gut feeling that there's something wrong, always self-refer.
Yeah, always follow your intuition with that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so grateful that that's what we did. But Vanessa, your experience was different because it was a little bit earlier on for you that you chose to go to Dr. Medel. So maybe you can share what that was like for you.
That's a good point, actually. So we went to Dr. Medel when Emilio was 3 months old and decided to just go for the surgery straight away, fundraised for a few months and did it when he was 10 months old. I can't explain why or how or whatever. I knew that he was tilting his head. I knew that I could feel he was frustrated with his eyesight. And we had so many questions about, oh, he's sleepy or his eyes aren't open properly. So for me, it was, okay, this is the best solution. Luckily, we live close by, so it wasn't too complicated with traveling and things like that. So we're just going to make the decision and go for it. And for me, it's been the best thing that we possibly could have done for him. Obviously, we don't know how he would have been without the surgery. You'll never know that. You just choose your route and you follow it, and you trust that it's the best. We don't know whether it would have ended up okay or whatnot, but he's your son, you're his mother, so I knew in my blood, in my instincts, what was right, and I just did that. So I wouldn't let anybody else's opinions or thoughts or the doctors. I think from all of this, the main thing that we can really gather is that unfortunately you think you can trust professional medical professionals, and in this instance with these rare conditions you can't, because unfortunately they haven't seen babies like this before. It's not their area of expertise. They don't know anything about the condition. We've all got stories of being misdiagnosed, giving the wrong information, being told silly things like, oh, just tape, like literally use masking tape to tape the eyelids up, and then his eyes will magically open over however long. You don't need a surgery. And, it's just bizarre what people come up with. So if you don't like what the doctor is telling you, or you feel like they're not taking you seriously, then as Pixie said, take it further and speak to one of the specialists. I have a list of specialists that are in the UK, and so does Pixie. So you can literally, Pixie, you can email these specialists and introduce yourself and set up a meeting, or how does it work?
I think you have to go through your GP in the UK.
Okay.
So we had to go back to our GP and insist that we were referred where we wanted to go. And initially, the surgeon who we'd first seen put up a bit of a fight about it. I believe it's because it's such a rare condition. She wanted to keep us close. You know, I don't know if she'd ever performed a surgery like that before. It felt a lot like she wasn't happy to let us go, and that's the reason she hadn't told us we were able to self-refer. I don't know if that's the truth, but that's just my gut feeling.
But it's good to know your options. Yeah, definitely. And to know the system, especially in the UK, you know, you have options. And as Pixie says, if you're not happy, you can self-refer and you can ask for a second, third, and fourth opinion, you know, until you find the avenue that feels right to you and that kind of is in line with, like, you know, your heart knows.
Exactly. It's parents' instincts. So if it's keeping you up at night, if you feel uncomfortable, just run with it. And we're here to support you. We're here to help you. You know, Pixie's happy for you to be in contact directly, you know, with her via WhatsApp or Facebook or whatever, if you've got questions or, you know, ongoing support and things like that. So we are here.
Well, we experienced in that sense, you know, the power of community. You know, it was something fairly unknown. We went through our own journey of discovery, and now when you know, when starting this charity, hopefully it will be something that's more talked about, and hopefully one day, you know, local GPs will know about this, even though it's a very rare condition. Yeah.
This is part of what I want to do over however long it takes, is literally speak to, you know, as many GPs and pediatricians as possible and say, look, this is this, okay? So if you see this, this is what it is, because they don't see it and they just don't know. It's not their fault. They probably can't know everything in the encyclopedia of every single rare condition in the world, so it's not their fault. But that's part of our mission. So I think we're going to wrap it up. If anyone has got any final questions, then speak now. But otherwise, we're going to...
I have a quick question. Vanessa, I think this one would probably be more in your alley. With your child so young, what was recovery like? How did you keep them from fussing? Did you have to use eye patches? How long did that take? Was it painful? And Pixie, I apologize if you mentioned some of that stuff. Multitask.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So he had the bandages, same as, you know, all the babies do for the first night. And he was fine. He wasn't touching it. He wasn't trying to rip it. You know, they're so drowsy after the operation that, you know, they don't really know what's going on anyway. The bandages come off, and to be honest with you, within a few days, he's bouncing around, he's happy. You know, obviously you can tell something's happened, but he wasn't feeling anything. He didn't need any painkillers, any of the sweet dulcy stuff, or the, what do you call it, Calpol stuff, none of that. And recovered super quickly. So, you know, actually age doesn't seem to make that much difference, because, you know, Maia was 7, she's recovered really well, really quickly. Emilio was 10 months old, he's recovered like super quickly. So it's quite good, actually. It doesn't seem like age makes that much difference in the recovery, but it wasn't, obviously, as Pixie said, you know, you've got to do a lot of work with the like antiseptic here to make sure that this doesn't get infected, and the hydration cream that you put inside the eye 5 or 6 times a day to make sure that it stays hydrated. But apart from those tiny struggles, there's nothing significant.
Thank you.
My pleasure. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining. I hope that, you know, you got some value out of this, and we will obviously be doing a lot more stuff. So keep an eye out. Any other questions or anything, let me know. And otherwise, we shall wish you a pleasant rest of your day or evening or whatever it is. Okay?
Yeah, thank you so much for listening to our story.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pixie and Pablo.
Yeah, all the best.
Yeah,
Thank
all the
you.
best to all of you. Good luck with making your decisions.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.